AITA for secretly paying for my sister's college after our parents refused to help her? I still remember the night I decided to change everything. It was late, maybe 2 a.m., and the house was quiet except for the faint hum of the fridge in the kitchen. I was sitting at my desk, my laptop screen casting a blue glow over the spreadsheets I'd been staring at for hours. Numbers don't lie, and mine were telling me I had enough, barely, to do something reckless, something right. My sister Lily was in her room down the hall, probably still crying. I could picture her curled up on her bed, her sketchbooks scattered around her, pages filled with charcoal drawings of faces and landscapes that seemed to breathe. She'd gotten the letter from the Rhode Island School of Design that morning, a partial scholarship, a golden ticket to her dream. But our parents had shut it down before she could even finish her pitch. "Art's not a career," Dad had said, his voice like gravel. "You're not throwing your life away on doodles." Mom just nodded, her lips a thin line, like she was biting back something worse. Lily was 18 then, all fire and defiance, but that night, I heard her break. I wanted to go to her, to say something. But what? "It'll be okay," wouldn't cut it. Not when our parents had made it clear. No college unless it was for something practical like medicine or engineering. I'd followed their rules, got my computer science degree, landed a stable tech job, became the son they could brag about at church. But Lily, she was the rebel, the dreamer, the one who painted murals on her bedroom walls and argued with Dad about the value of beauty. They saw her as a problem. I saw her as a spark. So there I was, staring at my savings account. $42,000. Years of skipped vacations, secondhand clothes, and overtime shifts at a startup that paid well but worked me to the bone. I'd been saving for a down payment on a house, or maybe a car that didn't rattle like a tin can. But as I sat there, hearing Lily's muffled sobs through the wall, I knew what I had to do. I'd pay for her college, and I'd do it without telling anyone. The plan was simple but delicate, like building a house of cards in a windstorm. I contacted RISD's financial office, posing as a concerned family member. Not a lie, technically. I set up a private account and arranged to cover the gap between Lily's scholarship and the full tuition, about $20,000 a year after fees. I made it look like the scholarship had been adjusted to cover everything, forging emails from an imaginary alumni fund. Lily was skeptical at first, but she was too excited to dig deep. "I guess miracles happen," she said, grinning as she packed her bags for Providence. Keeping it secret was harder. I had to lie to everyone. To Lily, I was just her supportive big brother, cheering her on from afar. To our parents, I was still the frugal golden boy, saving for a house someday. To my coworkers, I was the guy who never joined happy hour because I had work to do. Every month, I'd transfer money from my savings to the school, wincing as the balance dwindled. I took on freelance coding gigs, stayed up until 3 a.m., debugging apps for clients I barely liked. I stopped going to the gym, canceled my streaming subscriptions, ate instant noodles more nights than I'd admit. But when Lily called me from her dorm, her voice bright with stories about her painting classes or her first gallery show, it felt worth it. Those calls were my fuel. "Jake, you won't believe it," she'd say, her words tumbling over each other. "My professor said my piece could be in the senior showcase." I'd picture her in her studio, paint smudged on her cheek, her dark hair tied back with a bandana, surrounded by canvases that turned her chaotic emotions into something beautiful. She sent me photos sometimes, a self-portrait with bold, slashing lines, or a landscape that felt like it could swallow you whole. I'd stare at them on my phone, marveling at how her talent was blooming, how she was becoming someone new, someone free, but freedom came at a cost. By Lily's second year, my savings were down to $8,000. I'd started dipping into my emergency fund, telling myself I'd rebuild it later. I avoided family dinners when I could, too many questions about my future plans. Mom would ask, "When are you buying that house, Jake?" And I'd mumble something vague, my stomach twisting. Dad would grumble about Lily wasting her time at art school, and I'd bite my tongue so hard it hurt. I wanted to scream, "She's not wasting anything, she's brilliant," but I couldn't. One slip, and the whole house of cards would collapse. The first crack came during Lily's spring break. She came home glowing with stories about her professors and her new friends, but I noticed something else, a shadow in her eyes when she talked about the future. "What if I graduate and can't make it as an artist?" she asked one night, sitting on my couch with a mug of tea. "What if Mom and Dad were right?" "They're not," I said too quickly. "You're doing what you love. That's enough." She looked at me, her hazel eyes searching mine. "You really believe in me, don't you?" "Always," I said, my throat tight. I wanted to tell her the truth then, to confess that I was the reason she was there, that I'd poured everything into her dream. But I didn't. I was afraid she'd feel indebted or worse, guilty. So I just smiled and changed the subject. The real collapse came a month later. I was at my apartment sorting through bills when my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "We need to talk." Now my heart sank. I drove to their house, a knot in my stomach the whole way. When I walked in, Mom and Dad were at the kitchen table, a bank statement in front of them. My bank statement. I'd been so careful, but I must have left one in the trash when I visited last week. Rookie mistake. "Explain this," Dad said, sliding the paper toward me. It showed the transfers to wrist, labeled tuition payment. My mouth went dry. I started, but Mom cut me off. "You've been paying for Lily's school, haven't you?" Her voice was sharp like a blade. "Behind our backs, lying to us." I could have denied it, but what was the point? "Yeah," I said, lifting my chin. "I did." The room exploded. Mom was on her feet, shouting about betrayal, about how I'd undermined their authority. Dad's face was red, his voice low and furious. "We told her no. We told her art was a dead end, and you went and threw your money away on her nonsense?" "It's not nonsense," I snapped, my own voice rising. "She's talented, Dad. She's winning awards, getting noticed. She's happy. Don't you care about that? Don't you dare talk to us about caring," Mom said, tears in her eyes. "We raised you both, gave you everything, and you repay us by sneaking around, lying, acting like you know better?" I tried to explain how Lily's dream was worth it, how I couldn't let her give up, but they weren't listening. To them, I'd chosen sides, and it wasn't theirs. Dad said I'd disrespected their values. Mom called me a traitor. By the time I left, my hands were shaking, and I knew things would never be the same. Lily found out the next day. Mom called her, spilling everything in a tearful rant. When Lily showed up at my apartment, her eyes were red, her sketchbook clutched to her chest like a shield. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. "I didn't want you to feel like you owed me," I said, my voice cracking. "I just wanted you to have a chance." She started crying then, and so did I. "I thought it was a scholarship," she said. "I thought I earned it. Now I find out it was you, giving up everything, your savings, your life." "Not my life," I said, grabbing her shoulders. "Lily, seeing you paint, seeing you happy, that's worth more than any house, any car. You're my sister." She hugged me, sobbing into my shirt. And for a moment, it felt like we were kids again, back when we'd hide in the backyard to escape our parents' arguments. But then she pulled back, her face crumpled. "Mom and Dad say I'm on my own after I graduate. They're done with me. Because of this." "That's on them," I said, but the words felt hollow. I'd known there'd be consequences, but I hadn't expected this. A family split down the middle, Lily caught in the crossfire. The weeks that followed were a blur of silence and strain. Mom and Dad stopped calling me, and when I reached out, their responses were curt, clipped. Lily went back to school, but her texts were different, less bubbly, more guarded. She felt guilty, she said, like she'd stolen something from me. I told her she hadn't, but I wasn't sure she believed me. I started questioning myself, too. Had I done the right thing? I'd wanted to protect Lily's dream, but at what cost? My savings were gone, my emergency fund down to a few $100. I'd put my own goals, a house, maybe a family someday, on hold. And for what? A family that barely spoke to me? A sister who felt burdened by my sacrifice? But then I'd see Lily's art. She sent me a link to her online portfolio, updated with her latest work. There was a painting of a boy and a girl sitting on a roof, staring at the stars, and I knew it was us, back when we were kids, dreaming about futures our parents couldn't understand. I cried looking at it, not because I was sad, but because it reminded me why I'd done it. Lily wasn't just painting pictures, she was telling stories, capturing truths. She was becoming who she was meant to be. Last weekend, Lily came home for a visit. We met at a coffee shop away from our parents' house. She looked older somehow, her hair shorter, her eyes sharper. She slid a small canvas across the table, a miniature painting of a lighthouse in a storm, its beam cutting through the dark. "It's for you," she said, "because you've been my light, Jake, even when I didn't know it." I couldn't speak for a moment. When I did, my voice was hoarse. "You don't owe me anything, Lily." "I know," she said, "but I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to make it worth it." We talked for hours about her plans after graduation, about the internship she'd landed at a gallery in Boston. She was scared but determined, and for the first time, I felt like she was carrying her own weight, not mine. But when I asked about Mom and Dad, her face fell. "They're still mad," she said. "I tried talking to them, but they just shut me out." I nodded, my chest tight. I tried, too. A phone call with Mom that ended in tears. A text to Dad that went unanswered. I didn't know how to fix it, or if I even could. Part of me wanted to apologize, to beg for their forgiveness. But another part, the part that saw Lily's lighthouse painting, knew I'd made the right choice. Or at least, the only choice I could live with. So, here I am, posting this on Reddit because I'm lost. I don't regret helping Lily, but I hate what it's done to our family. I hate that my parents see me as a liar, that Lily feels guilty, that I'm starting over financially at 28 with nothing to show for it but a sister who's chasing her dream. Was I wrong to keep it a secret? Should I have confronted my parents up front, even if it meant a fight? Or was I right to do whatever it took to give Lily a chance? ATEA for secretly paying for my sister's college, even though it meant lying to my parents and draining my savings? I need to know what you think, Reddit, because right now I'm not sure I know anymore.